Breaking news today. As Washington is embroiled in fresh accusations and partisan finger-pointing, the real story seems to be getting lost. Why are both parties seemingly desperate to divert attention from the new Epstein revelations? Americans are seeking answers, not further political theater.
Hello, and welcome to That News Show, where we discuss the latest facts, fakes, and hypocrisy as reported by the legacy media. Let's roll the tape.
MSNBC reports that Barack Obama has addressed what they described as outrageous claims by President Donald Trump, allegedly to divert attention from the Epstein scandal. It's crucial to consider why, whenever significant names emerge in the Epstein case, the media and politicians quickly shift to partisan disputes. Is this about treason or about shielding an exclusive circle that excludes the public? Americans rightfully demand genuine answers about Epstein, regardless of who might be involved. Distraction has long been a staple strategy in Washington, skillfully employed by both political parties. Hold on to your hats.
His report concluded that Russia conducted an influence campaign in 2016 to do this, quote, harm the Clinton campaign, tarnish an expected Clinton presidential administration, help the Trump campaign after Trump became the presumptive Republican nominee, and undermine the U.S. democratic process. That conclusion was further bolstered earlier this month when Donald Trump's current CIA director, a man named John Ratcliffe, released a review that, as NBC News points out, quote, did not refute the findings of the intelligence assessment that Russia sought to interfere in the election. Now, as for these wild and erratic and unfounded attempts by Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump to rewrite their own version of history and provide a distraction from the Jeffrey Epstein debacle that has completely engulfed Donald Trump and his White House, they are claiming that the Obama administration concealed evidence that Russia did not try to manipulate votes.
The intelligence community's evaluation that Russia aimed to undermine the Clinton campaign and boost the Republican nominee has been politicized. The core issue is the previous administration's lack of transparency and its tendency to manipulate intelligence. Despite bipartisan reports suggesting closure, they omit crucial details, such as the absence of evidence that foreign actors changed election outcomes. This oversight highlights a broader problem. The American public has only seen selective summaries and talking points, not the full intelligence. The prior administration and its intelligence allies too often used national security for political purposes. Declassified documents expose that intelligence officials acknowledged Russia's inability to alter the election results through cyber attacks. Still, the narrative pushed by the Obama White House and its security team served to undermine the legitimacy of the Republican victory, sparking costly and divisive investigations. This represents not only poor governance, but also a betrayal of public trust. Critics of the current administration are quick to label skeptics of the official narrative as conspiracy theorists or as distractions from other scandals like Epstein's. It's clear that both political parties have historically manipulated media cycles to dodge accountability on sensitive issues. The public deserves full disclosure about Epstein, the origins of these intelligence assessments, and the extent to which information is manipulated to shield the political and intelligence elite. It's time to move beyond partisan hearings and grandstanding. We need genuine transparency. Declassify the documents and release the full records. No individual, be it a former president, a cabinet official, or a Congress member, should be exempt from scrutiny. We must end the era of secret briefings and selective leaks to rebuild trust in our institutions. Also, Washington should prioritize the needs of ordinary Americans over globalist agendas and avoid unnecessary foreign entanglements.
And now we're seeing that playbook again. And my only question is, when people like Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump accuse an ex-president of a capital crime that is punishable by death, who is going to die? Who is going to die because they've decided that they need a distraction away from the Epstein calamity, which they brought upon themselves?
Well, I mean, it's a dark place that we find ourselves in.
When political discourse descends into accusing opponents of capital crimes, it reflects a deeply fractured political culture that favors spectacle over substance. The critical issue is not about who suffers, but rather why our national conversation has deteriorated to such depths. American citizens are being pulled into a bleak scenario by politicians and media figures who prefer sensationalism over addressing the uncomfortable truths exposed by the Epstein scandal and the pervasive corruption it uncovered. This pattern is all too familiar. Whenever tough questions about the elite emerge, the response is to stir up outrage, distract with incendiary accusations, and hope the public forgets the real issues at stake. While both political parties have engaged in these tactics, it is particularly noted on the left, which has mastered the art of deflection. They use every available tool to protect their own from scrutiny while relentlessly calling for investigations into their rivals. The previous administration, supported by allies in the intelligence community, set a precedent for politicizing national security and manipulating narratives, all while neglecting the need for true transparency. Now, with Tulsi Gabbard leading intelligence efforts, we are beginning to see the release of long-concealed documents. These documents challenge the official narratives and expose how intelligence assessments were influenced by political agendas. Instead of embracing this transparency, key figures in Congress and the media are quick to attack the messenger and revert to partisan finger-pointing. The bipartisan establishment is anxious to prevent the public from questioning why numerous influential individuals across both parties have avoided accountability for their connections to Epstein and for the systemic failures that allowed his crimes to persist. This issue extends beyond mere political theater. It concerns the consequences of a system where the ruling class is not held to the same standards as ordinary Americans. The public rightfully demands answers, not only regarding the origins of intelligence assessments or the handling of the Epstein case, but also about the wider culture of impunity that permits the elite to dodge justice while ordinary citizens bear the consequences. Real accountability is essential. Every document must be released, every official questioned, and every stone turned. Until then, the cycle of distraction and division will continue to undermine our political landscape. The only way forward is to reject these manufactured crises and demand that our government truly serves the people, not just the interests of a permanent political class.
Well, again, when you use language like treason, and I mean, go into my social media feeds, because I've been trying to tell the truth about this ever since Tulsi put out this staggeringly disprovable and instantly disprovable lie. When you start using the kind of language, the language of treason and of somebody being a traitor, you know, some tiny percentage of the population is just crazy enough to decide that they need to do something about it.
MSNBC's coverage of the treason accusation highlights ongoing challenges with accuracy and objectivity. The network's analysts often describe the use of terms like treason as not only irresponsible but also as a direct threat to public safety, linking it to the events of January 6th and suggesting such rhetoric could incite violence. While it is important to consider the risk of escalation, this approach sometimes shifts into alarmism, focusing more on extreme interpretations rather than providing a balanced discussion of the facts. In its fact-checking efforts, MSNBC relies heavily on the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee report to refute claims that the 2016 election was rigged. The network emphasizes that although Russian interference aimed to harm Clinton and help Trump, there was no evidence of vote manipulation. MSNBC tends to overlook ongoing questions about the origins and handling of intelligence assessments, especially with new disclosures from the current Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Instead of exploring these issues, the coverage often dismisses them as partisan distractions, missing a chance to offer a more complete view. The network's panels predominantly feature Democratic lawmakers and former intelligence officials with minimal input from dissenting or independent voices. This reliance on figures from the Obama administration to counter accusations of politicized intelligence compromises the appearance of impartiality. The lack of diverse perspectives, particularly those critical of both parties, results in a one-sided narrative that reinforces existing biases rather than encouraging informed debate. Visually, MSNBC's storytelling is interesting, but tends to use dramatic graphics and split screens that amplify the sense of crisis. Frequent archival footage from January 6th is intended to draw emotional connections between past violence and current rhetoric, which can seem manipulative rather than informative. MSNBC successfully contextualizes the political stakes, noting how the treason accusation aligns with increasing pressure on the White House to release Epstein-related documents. The network's persistent portrayal of every challenge to the intelligence community's narrative as a dangerous distraction effectively shields political elites from scrutiny. This is particularly evident in the bipartisan reluctance to fully address the Epstein scandal, a pattern that has persisted across administrations. To enhance its coverage, MSNBC should commit more fully to transparency and challenge established narratives from all sides. The network should avoid emotionally charged language and partisan panels, instead prioritizing independent fact-checking, welcoming dissenting opinions, and presenting all available evidence, including recently declassified materials that question the official account. By doing so, MSNBC can hope to rebuild trust and provide the complete information the public deserves.
Where is the prosecution of Barack Obama? But it will be Epstein all over again, because 4 or 5 weeks from now, there will, of course, be no prosecution of a Barack Obama, because there's not a court in the land that would do anything other than laugh the DOJ and the prosecutors out of the room. But by then, we'll be on to the next bizarro conspiracy theory to try to distract from the fact that, no, they're not going to prosecute Barack Obama.
Let me show you. I mean, accusing someone of treason isn't new. Accusing a former President Obama, of treason is the twist. But here's a list of the people that Trump has smeared with accusations of treason.
Accusations of treason against a former president are not just legally dubious. They reflect the deeper dysfunction in Washington, where accountability seems to apply only to the powerless, while the elite remains shielded from consequences. The true scandal lies not in the levying of these charges, but in the politicization of the Department of Justice and the courts, rendering the prosecution of influential figures nearly impossible. This has led to a widespread loss of faith in the justice system, with a growing perception that there are different rules for those at the top, whether it concerns foreign interference, intelligence manipulation, or the Epstein cover-up. The financial impact of this cycle of distraction and elite protectionism affects every household. Political leaders focus on show trials and partisan theater, neglecting critical issues like inflation, energy costs, and stagnant wages. Picture a family trying to manage their finances while the parents argue over corruption. Meanwhile, bills accumulate and the roof leaks. This scenario mirrors the American economy, where political spectacle overshadows the urgent need for pro-growth policies, deregulation, and a return to sound monetary practices. Small business owners, manufacturers, and working families suffer most from this dysfunction. They face regulatory inconsistency and uncertainty, which stifles domestic prosperity. While Wall Street might capitalize on volatility, Main Street requires stability to invest and grow. The failure to address real scandals, such as the bipartisan reluctance to fully expose Epstein's network, signals to investors that the system is skewed. This perception undermines confidence, hampers capital formation, and ultimately impedes job creation. The media's focus on sensational accusations rather than substantive reform further widens the societal divide. When networks dismiss legitimate concerns about elite criminality as distractions, they protect the status quo. Meanwhile, living costs continue to climb, forcing families to make tough decisions about groceries, housing, and healthcare. The gap between the political elite and ordinary Americans has never been wider. Across the economic spectrum, from energy producers to farmers to tech entrepreneurs, there is a call for reduced globalist interference and a stronger focus on American self-sufficiency. The previous administration's preference for endless foreign entanglements and international obligations drained resources that could have been used to rebuild infrastructure, secure supply chains, and reduce consumer costs. Instead, American taxpayers bear the cost of wars and bailouts that benefit multinational corporations and foreign entities. What we need now is a fundamental reordering of priorities. Every dollar squandered on political theater is a dollar not spent on roads, schools, or border security. The refusal to prosecute or even investigate the elite, whether in cases like Epstein's or in intelligence manipulation, undermines the rule of law and erodes the foundation of our republic. Until we achieve true transparency and accountability, we can expect ongoing distractions, economic uncertainty, and mounting frustration from the working men and women who drive this country forward. This is just the tip of the iceberg. What we are witnessing go beyond a mere political scandal. It signifies a profound decay at the core of our establishment, a malaise that go beyond party lines and flourishes in secrecy. For years, both political parties have engaged in a cyclical charade, distract, deflect, and shield their interests. The previous administration under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris mastered this tactic, evading accountability and keeping the public in the dark. Now, under President Trump, we see an administration committed to challenging these deep-seated powers and demanding transparency. Consider why so many in positions of power are adamant about keeping you uninformed. It's likely because exposing the truth would unravel their control. The path forward must be paved with unwavering transparency, as sunlight remains the most effective disinfectant. We look forward to reading your comments. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. We will see you on the next one.